They called me the weakest hunter, a boy with nothing but borrowed luck. But staring down this imposter wearing Vanquish's face, something inside me snapped. The deputy stood calm, red ponytail swaying like he knew the ending. His face shimmered behind rainbow static, an illusion barely holding human shape. That flickering distortion was the first clue he was no ordinary thief. His signal warped and glitched, peeling off him in corrupted jagged pixels. My arm flared red, the blood answering a call I never taught. The power felt raw and unfinished, a manual in a foreign language. "Show me how strong you've become," he taunted, stepping closer like entertainment. Then blood ignited, wrapping me in jagged plates of molten crimson metal. "Hold your horses and listen," he whispered, amused by my rising storm. I cut him off with 6 brutal words that reshaped the battlefield. Subaru launched forward in a blur, a crimson streak trailing behind him. The deputy flipped upside down above him, cackling like he was playing. A whip of pure blood cracked through the air toward his throat. Crack after crack, tendrils lashed, trying to pin down that laughing red target. The deputy explained how Subaru could copy any technique and make it his. Subaru roared as blood whips erupted around him, tearing the air with lightning. The deputy twisted through the crimson tendrils, dodging each strike like a dancer. He landed softly in the sand, barely breathing, already bored of his prey. Subaru pressed the attack, refusing to let that smug face breathe a second. Red arced across Subaru's cheek as the deputy slipped past with impossible speed. For a breath he stood alone in ash, chest heaving, eyes burning furious. Blood trickled from his temple as he grinned through pain, finally feeling alive. The deputy crouched low, sizing Subaru up like a merchant appraising a diamond. The ultimate blood sword held Vanquish's essence and could split the sky. The deputy paused, surprise flickering across his masked face for the first time. He chuckled quietly, the sound colder than anything he had said before. A massive explosion tore across the field, throwing red smoke into boiling sky. Subaru unleashed whips of raw blood from the bottoms of his feet. The deputy cackled, praising the brilliant attack method like a very proud teacher. Did he dodge all of them? Subaru growled, jaw clenched tight in frustration. A rainbow blur zipped past, the deputy already behind him before he turned. He twisted at the last second to barely block the incoming vicious strike. Blood whirled around his wrist like a living weapon, ready to lash again. Their blades locked and the deputy whispered mockery into Subaru's burning ear. Blood ran from my mouth as the shock of his speed rattled bone. My body slammed into dirt, horizon tilting sideways as the world blurred. Steel flickered through the haze as the deputy drew closer, blade raised. "Don't make me laugh," he mocked, and I swore to rip that smile. "If you don't pour everything out, you could actually die here," he warned. Fire erupted around me as I pushed past every limit I ever touched. Subaru's vision blurred red as his heartbeat synced with the raging inferno. Armor plates clunked into place across his chest like ancient mechanical gears. The deputy's grin faltered as a new shape rose from the dust blazing. One step, then another, the Red Warrior closed in with zero hesitation. Blood surged around Subaru as his armor flared, trailing ribbons across the field. He leapt forward, a comet of rage aimed at the imposter's smug chest. The deputy darted sideways, laughing like a child watching fireworks tear the sky. "Whoops," he taunted as whips slashed for him, barely missing his form. "You're not getting away," Subaru hissed as his eyes narrowed into burning slits. Their fists met midair, one purple and rotten, the other pure fury. Shockwaves from their blow flattened the sand in perfect blooming circles around them. A clean hit finally landed and the deputy's head snapped sideways hard. The deputy grinned wider, wondering how this fire would fare against Mystic Piercer. Subaru pivoted and his crimson armor trailed fire like a cape of war. A vicious blood blade ripped upward, trying to split him clean in half. The imposter tilted his head under red sky, still smiling beneath his mask. Subaru gripped his blade tighter as its jagged edge pulsed hungrier each heartbeat. Crimson sparks rained from his helmet as the next strike built inside. "Heal," the deputy whispered, mending his torn flesh with a careless wave. Subaru screamed as another slice ripped through the night, cutting twilight into ribbons. His red eyes locked on the enemy, glowing like 2 dying suns. "This guy," the deputy muttered, finally nervous for the first time tonight. Subaru stood tall in his armor, burning like a god wrapped in blood. His gauntlets crystallized into crimson shards sharper than any weapon ever forged. "He's putting the parts sliced off back together with blood," the deputy realized. His arms swept out in a wide brutal arc humming with deadly intent. One brown eye and one rainbow locked on him with killing intent. "Wow," the deputy breathed, his mockery finally cracking into something resembling fear. "Get a load of this," he called out, still clinging to his theater. When Subaru first received his powers, he experienced pain beyond human limits. "Interesting kid, right?" the deputy laughed to someone unseen in the shadows. "Ha ha ha Subaru, you are amazing," he howled as fire swallowed the battlefield. Everything froze for one instant as the deputy realized this wasn't a game. "What's so funny?" Subaru asked quietly as his rainbow eye burned brighter. He raised his crimson lance, every crystal plate glowing with ancient rage. "Blood lance," he roared as the ultimate technique tore open a rainbow path. The deputy choked as the crimson spear punched clean through his chest. Die, Subaru whispered coldly as the imposter staggered, stolen face falling apart. A column of red light erupts and the whole world stops breathing. A pair of boots descend from the sky like a forbidden rumor. A blood-red side splits the horizon like an ancient curse. A voice whispers how extraordinary, and my soul tries to retreat. The masked stranger floats in green mist, half ghost, all nightmare. My eyelids drag down as warmth leaks into the cold concrete. He laughs how cruel, as if my death were a punchline. He sighs how impatient as everything around us slows to a crawl. My body lights up blue, stitched back together by invisible threads. If my mana runs out, he warns, I will shatter into pieces. I stare at my shaking hands, impossibly alive and still bloody. I beg him, just let me get Sayaka to a hospital first. He scoffs, teasing me about saying Sayaka's name so many times. Then his voice turns cold as he calls me plain carrion. He swears on the pride of vampires this debt is not finished. He calls himself Lord Vanquish and shakes my trembling bloodied hand. I mumble I am dying anyway, so what is the point? He says I won't die. This door opened inside a gate. A notification screams that I have leveled up from 20 to 26. My eyes lock wide as rainbow glow washes across my shocked face. More prompts rain down, Mystic Piercer, Death Fist, Part of Death. Something dangerous blooms in my chest, and it is not fear. Lord Vanquish starts to flicker, muttering shucks time's up already. If your friend ends up dying, he says, use Blood Taker. A fanged crown icon brands me as a brand new predator. He admits my intensity at the end genuinely impressed Lord Vanquish. Take care, please exit through the gate, and then he vanishes. I scoop Sayaka up and burst out of the collapsing gate running. I couldn't care less about sky clocks, I just want her alive. A stranger asks if we need an ambulance, and relief hits hard. Meanwhile, a whole different raid is burning through its own hell. A crimson timer ticks down, a countdown no hunter wants finished. A blue sign names this death trap the nest of the white whale. Hunters scream as tidal shockwaves rip through their shattering formation. Their leader Julieta Hizaki watches her soldiers get torn apart. A level 59 sky whale drifts above them like a hurricane. The beast swims through air, smashing skyscrapers like bathtub toys. Julieta realizes her soldiers are dropping like flies beneath it. So this is what a true 5-star gate actually feels like. A bloody hand grabs her shoulder, one of her own desperate men. He begs how many more of us need to die for this. Julieta turns slowly, eyes wild, a crazed grin splitting her face. She stabs her own soldier, hissing about cherishing subordinate lives. Who said you could speak to me that way, she snarls. A blue notification fires off inside her pupil, freezing her grin. A banner cackles the death toll is now over half your party. Another lieutenant drops dead behind her with a sickening thud. Her remaining hunters stare in horror at her rattled expression. She shrieks stop it now, finally seeing the true cost. Then she takes off running, kicking up dust in blind panic. Her hunters mutter we're screwed as the whale's shadow swallows them. Her elites gather under the beast, knowing this is their end. Back at my gate the red barrier creaks open with me inside. I stagger out with my arms raised, the raid marked finished. A red notice tells me all other raiding players have died. Another warning forms, the infernal creature is now escaping outside. A countdown hisses, it's been less than a single minute. A red shockwave explodes, rewriting the entire skyline in crimson static. The ground turns pixelated red as the message spreads to everyone. The infernal creature will target the raiding players first of all. A pale giant mouth opens above, whispering is anyone there? Bystanders on the street crowd around the broken hunter on the pavement. A paramedic orders 10 liters of oxygen and begs me to help. I stare confused as sirens scream and a new red alert blooms. The nest of the white whale raid has been officially abandoned. The sky clock slaps me with a 240-day penalty. 8 months of humanity's deadline just evaporated because someone ran. Whoever abandoned that raid just robbed the whole world of time. Suddenly a stranger in hunter armor stalks directly toward me. The pale-haired woman locks her eyes directly onto mine. Wait, what is Julieta Hizaki herself doing at my gate? She rushes over and grabs the collar of the paramedic. She snarls she will escape using that very ambulance. Julieta shrieks, quit blabbering, are you bringing that woman too? The paramedics protest they must operate on Sayaka immediately. Julieta kicks one down as Sayaka whimpers please you can't. Deep in my chest, the blood taker passive stirs hungrily awake. I step between them, snarling what do you think you're doing? My rainbow aura flares, the boy they buried now wide awake. Above us the whale drifts lazily, the real fight just beginning. A monstrous sky whale drifts silently above the skyline, swallowing the sun. Evacuation sirens scream as panicked civilians scramble for any shelter they can find. From the chaos, our protagonist stares upward with the quiet rage of loss. The image of his bleeding sister still burns behind his tired eyes. He remembers the shattered van and the crimson smear across its open door. He remembers chasing the thugs down an alley, shouting for them to stop. The woman behind the attack shrieked, vowing to murder him on the spot. Kill, she said, like the word was carved into her bones forever. And I told her to try, because I had already stopped fearing death. Snapping back, I grip the rooftop edge and stare down below. Bruises still bloom across my face, but none of that pain registers anymore. The whale seems to be drifting straight toward my sister's hospital district. I turn from the crowd, face cold as a dangerous idea begins forming. Earlier, my blood fist shattered an S-rank shield with a single strike. I refuse to let this thing ever reach Sayaki, not after everything. I have to beat this monster right here and right now, alone. I study the creature, asking myself what strange abilities it might be hiding. A flash, and the whale fires a concentrated water beam straight at me. I twist sideways as the pavement beside me explodes into dust. Its crimson eyes lock onto me like a hunter who just spotted dinner. I steady my breath, narrowing my eyes for the coming counterattack. The whale blooms into crimson petals, bathing the city in red. Even from below, I can feel volcanic pressure radiating off that bloom. It is the dreaded attack recorded in every hunter manual, blood mold. Without wasting a second, I leap skyward, blue light trailing like a comet. Rain and debris whip past me as I rocket toward the creature's belly. I throw a condensed blood fist and somehow repel its attack midair. Even I am stunned, since that water could crack a silver-class shield. I grin upward, grateful the whale insists on hovering exposed in open sky. Swirling red aura awakens across every inch of my skin and bloodline. My body is now sheathed in blood armor, woven from pure life force. I launch a blood fist, a crimson spear tearing skyward. I land hard on the pavement, waiting to see it finally fall. My eyes widen in disbelief as the whale still hangs above me unharmed. It didn't work, I whisper as crimson mist dissolves off its armored hide. I crash onto the crack street, realizing force alone will not win. I kneel in the wind, calculating every remaining option I have left. The whale begins charging an even larger attack across the skyline above me. An ambulance skids into view in the distance, its driver shouting urgently. I whisper come as crimson essence pools around my feet. From the blood rises the Divine Chisel, forged to kill gods. Above, the whale erupts into a storm of glowing projectile orbs. One orb turns deep red, locking onto me with cruel predatory focus. The missile streaks down in a blinding flash of red and blue light. A column of death taller than skyscrapers drops, and somehow I am smiling. I raise the chisel overhead as the crowd screams behind me. So that is its trump card, I murmur, gauging the incoming projectile calmly. The Divine Chisel has only 3 charges, and I must spend one now. I pour blood energy into the blade, feeling it pulse hungrily. The whale unleashes a web of red lightning trying to swat me down. I sprint into the storm as attacks glance harmlessly off my blood armor. The whale notices death closing in and releases a childlike sound of fear. Its face twists, realizing its chosen prey is actually a predator. I settle into a perfect stance, the chisel resting on my shoulder. My mana bar hums nearly full, confirming I have exactly 1 clean shot. The air distorts into violet pressure as I gather every ember of power. Above me, a huge sphere forms like a second sun. I must prevent that shot, or this neighborhood will cease to exist. Alright, I exhale, as rainbow light blooms across the chisel's entire length. I swing in a perfect arc, releasing a crescent across the skyline. Reality itself seems to bend around the blade as it cuts the world. The crescent slices through the whale's center, freezing it mid-attack completely. Blood sprays in ribbons as the creature finally splits apart and collapses. Rain keeps falling across the skyline as silence slowly returns to the streets. Then, unbelievably, a bright rainbow unfurls across the orange evening sky. Civilians crawl out from hiding, staring at the miracle they witnessed. Did somebody actually defeat that underworld creature? One of them whispers softly. On the ground, I slip the Divine Chisel back into storage, fingers trembling. I pull up my hood and walk away quietly into the long shadows. A young boy points at my retreating back, wondering if I saved them. With a flick of his wrist, the last blood armor dissolves. He glances at a dying ember of his blood bleeding on the pavement. The last flecks of power scatter, leaving no trace for investigators to follow. From a nearby balcony, an excited witness watches the rainbow stretch wider overhead. He grins, boasting that he caught the entire event on his phone camera. Within seconds, the footage is uploaded, and the caption predicts it going viral. In a sterile hospital room, surgeons hover over a wrapped patient. A cardiac monitor steadies into a strong rhythm, reflecting their relief. On the bed, a single weary eye slowly opens to the harsh lights. A quiet tear slides down her cheek as her brother's gamble succeeds. What do you do when the one you swore to protect dies in front of you? He collapses onto the hospital floor like a puppet whose strings were cut. Every failure of his life crawls up his throat all at once. Something twitches inside the system, bleeding a new word across my vision. A single tear slips down my cheek as I read the impossible notification. The reaction wakes me faster than any command, my trembling hand rising to obey. One tap on the glowing panel and the entire world pauses around me. Blood Usurper unfolds, and one line at the bottom stops my heart cold. My finger hovers over Parivara, a skill sealed since this system first opened. I read the description 3 times because my brain refuses to accept it. A countdown burns above her body, 15 seconds, each tick a war drum. A crimson hand of raw energy blooms from my palm, promising the impossible. The skill latches onto Sayaka and red veins pulse through her lifeless skin. Flashbacks of every moment we shared crash over me as the timer falls. Then the display screams 0, and a suffocating silence swallows the entire room. Subaru stands beside the bed like a ghost, too afraid to whisper her name. She lies peacefully, a red streak already threading through her hair like warning. Panic eats him whole as he fears the resurrection failed and she is gone. Footsteps slam the hallway as her 3 closest friends burst in at once. The girls freeze when they spot a hooded stranger over their unconscious friend. The pink-haired girl rushes to the bedside, eyes already flooding with disbelief. Taiga sizes Subaru up through narrowed glasses, branding him the enemy instantly. Kanna kneels close to her friend, voice trembling, begging to know what happened. A single tear traces her cheek because she senses something is terribly wrong. Taiga turns on Subaru with authority in her voice, demanding who he is. Kanna defends him, insisting that standing by a friend in crisis is normal. His mouth opens but nothing comes out, because how do you explain this? Sweat beads down his face as Taiga's suspicion hardens into a full verdict. The redhead leans over the bed, fury burning, accusing him of killing her. Subaru glances sideways, jaw tight, refusing to answer a question that sounds insane. Taiga's voice cracks as rage and grief collide behind her shattered broken heart. Her eyelashes flutter, a pink strand catching the light as Sayaka starts stirring. One eye peels open slowly, and Subaru sees the proof he desperately prayed for. Her lips part, an unfamiliar pink glow flickering behind her returning gaze. She sits up as if she never died, hair streaked with crimson confusion. Kanna lights up for a split second, convinced the nightmare has finally ended. But red glyphs are already burning across her forehead like a living brand. A scream tears from her throat as crimson energy explodes outward, shredding everything. Red blades of raw aura slice the air, forcing everyone to duck fast. Her silhouette rises within the storm, a blood-red outline floating upward ominously. One finger extends and a crimson beam erupts skyward like an executioner's spotlight. When the smoke clears, her eyes are no longer human, just burning rubies. Kanna whispers her friend's name with relief, not realizing it is no longer her. The kindred growls 3 octaves lower, warning them off her newly claimed master. A red blur streaks the room and suddenly she is hovering over Subaru. Taiga's pupils shrink to pinpricks because her brain cannot process that raw speed. Crimson eyes lock onto his, and for a moment he sees nothing familiar. Her hand brushes his cheek gently, an obedient smile on unfamiliar trembling lips. Subaru forces a nervous smile and guides her upright, praying the girl stay calm. He bows his head and apologizes like a tenant apologizing for an unruly pet. Taiga snaps that she will not accept any apology from this weird hooded boy. The kindred lowers her head and whispers a soft yes of blind devotion. Subaru realizes with a cold stomach drop that she remembers nothing of her past. His face goes blank as the weight of what he created finally sinks in. Behind him, Kanna suddenly levitates upward, wrapped in violent purple flames uncontrolled. Tamaki rises in a pillar of blue fire, her braid whipping with power. His jaw literally drops, because apparently every girl here is secretly a monster. He gasps as he realizes he is outnumbered by 3 enraged awakened hunters. Taiga steps forward and demands once more if he killed their dear Sayaka. A 10-second countdown flashes above her hands, charging enough energy to erase him. The kindred growls that one glance toward her master from these humans is enough. Subaru throws his hands up, promising to explain everything once they get outside. Tamaki gasps as her body locks in place, pinned by an unseen force. All 3 friends hang suspended mid-air, tied like packages with ribbons of blood. Taiga gasps this skill cannot be Sayaka's, she never wielded anything like it. Sayaka tilts her head innocently, an empty question mark above her borrowed face. Subaru grabs her wrist and bolts, dragging his new monster through the corridor. She follows obediently behind, crimson eyes glowing, a terrifying shadow at his heel. They burst onto the rooftops as the orange sun bleeds across the skyline. Mid-leap his expression hardens as his senses catch something dangerous approaching fast. Back at the whale fight, someone recorded everything, and the mysterious player trends. 2 figures stand at the hallway's end, one smirking down at his phone. The pink-haired man in sunglasses laughs, joking Taiga secretly had an older brother. A tag flashes, number 2, gold rank player Shikishima Ryu, scariest hunter alive. Above the building, Subaru's eyes widen as he counts 2 gold ranks closing. Behind them a third presence blooms, massive enough to blot out the corridor. Raya raises his phone and grins, pointing at the map at their target. Polished shoes click the tile as a smooth voice greets him as Ariaki Subaru. Another tag ignites, number 1, gold rank player Hirosaka Rinji, strongest hunter alive. Subaru swallows hard with his resurrected kindred behind him, knowing tonight gets worse. A name cuts through the hallway and 2 hooded strangers freeze mid-step. The man approaching is not just a player, he is Japan's strongest hero. Subaru and Kresha step back together, instincts screaming that something is very wrong. Hirosaka smiles and calmly announces that every suspicion against them has already been cleared. My jaw drops as my entire brain stutters to a full confused stop. A black car glides through the neon city, carrying us somewhere important. Inside the quiet cabin, Kresha and I sit like children summoned before royalty. Hirosaka explains that Taiga's kind of door has never once appeared in this world. Then he asks Kresha if she is the one who somehow revived that elf. He grins like a man who already knows every answer he is asking about. Without warning, he tosses a sleek tablet across the cabin into my lap. He asks if I know how many cameras watch every street of Tokyo. The screen lights up with footage from the mall, captured in crystal clarity. My stomach drops as I realize the cameras captured literally every single thing. The footage proves I was only another victim Taiga tried to brutally kill. Elsewhere, 2 suspicious players watch the news with growing interest. A fingertip taps the news icon, unleashing rumors that should have stayed buried. Reports of a mysterious player are already spreading across every public news feed. Back inside the car, Hirosaka tells me I have officially been fully cleared. Then he says 4 words I never expected: "You really became a hero." Let that sink in. A kid once in chains is now being called hero. My face betrays everything: disbelief, exhaustion, and the smallest flicker of reluctant pride. Hirosaka says that after hearing my story, today's entire mystery is finally solved. But the shadow of Taiga still lingers, a monster pulled from somewhere forbidden. Stealing a door from another player breaks the deepest rules of this world. No matter how powerful a player becomes, a second door should never appear. I remember the moment my own second door opened inside my burning chest. Kresha stays silent beside me, red eyes fixed forward, sensing something coming. Hirosaka closes his eyes and says the time has come to check answers. A massive silver tower rises above Tokyo, glowing like a blade of power. An elevator plunges downward, past floor after floor, into a hidden secret level. The doors open onto basement floor 6, lined with yellow warning stripes everywhere. Hirosaka leads us through armed guards who silently part as our group passes. A steel sign above the door reads simply, "Anti-Player Special Prison." Inside the cell, the chained witness sits hunched, wrists glowing with molten gold. Hirosaka explains he is being held by the Federation's so-called golden chains. The witness lifts his head and raw hatred floods into his scarred face. Hirosaka calmly tells him that Subaru has already confessed every single hidden detail. The prisoner explodes with rage, slamming against the bars, demanding to know why. He screams that every gate in that mall was supposed to belong only to him. His entire world now revolves around one ugly, desperate word: revenge. I stay flat and bored, because right now he is nothing but background noise. Kresha quietly promises, in a voice only she hears, to kill this man. Red flames lick around her shoulders as her killing aura fills the corridor. Yet somehow my heart stays calm, almost too calm for a boy like me. The prisoner shakes his chains and howls that I cannot look down on him. I step forward and quietly thank Hirosaka from the bottom of my heart. The witness begs me to stop, desperate, furious, pleading with his breaking voice. His voice chases us down the hall, but I refuse to turn around. The elevator doors slide closed, sealing his rage away like an old nightmare. Hirosaka watches me closely, trying to figure out what I am slowly becoming. On the tablet, an official federal report flashes with a bright red stamp. The document declares me a 6-star gate holder, a terrifyingly rare classification. 2 golden stars blaze across the display like trophies carved from sunlight. We step into a marble reception hall where only the strongest players enter. A black Federation card drops into my palm, loaded with privileges. Whispers ripple through the lobby as every head turns toward the quiet boy. 2 agents murmur that it really is him, the one from that viral video. A pink-haired officer spins around, excited to finally meet me face to face. The weight of every stare presses heavy against my suddenly very small shoulders. All this attention feels strange, because I never asked to become anybody's legend. The receptionist smiles gently and asks what I am planning to do next. The question hits hard, because deep inside, I have absolutely no idea myself. Outside the tower, the sky bleeds deep violet as night wraps around Tokyo. Back underground, the prisoner screams the same curse over and over at nothing. Somewhere inside the tower, a pair of golden chains hums with hidden power. Suddenly, glowing golden shackles erupt from thin air around the prisoner's whole body. The chains tighten violently, pinning him as if a hidden judge has spoken. Inside the hall, Kresha freezes as a sudden chill runs down her spine. A golden star flares inside a faraway player's eye, commanding absolute silent judgment. The chains coil higher, sealing the prisoner's jaw and silencing every bitter curse. Across the city, gold rank player Kinokawa Sakura raises a glowing golden fist. She demands to know why the witness is rampaging for such pointless reasons. The witness groans as the golden links drain every last ounce of strength. The Federation's invisible judgment holds him down, and escape becomes absolutely impossible now. Kinokawa mutters that Subaru has grown monstrously strong and broken 2 full doors. Inside his cell, the witness sobs that this cursed world never chose him. And then, from nowhere, a ripple of dark purple energy erupts beside him. A swirling mass of liquid shadow rises as Kinokawa stares in frozen disbelief. A brand new door tears open inside headquarters glowing hungry purple, and what crawls out will change everything, but that is a story for the next episode.